board, is that?
Yes. I found out in regards to my application to the planning board. I come to find out through Zoom that you said you had called and halted my application.
Mhm.
I didn't know what kind of position.
Okay. Well, just to
Sorry,
Sure.
because we had, when we left here, the meeting, previous meeting we were at, in November.
yes, you were here at our
Yeah,
November
we
meeting.
had Pre-approval.
We had completed a preliminary approval of your subdivision.
Right.
And we had completed the seeker and we had held a public hearing. At that point, we suspended the process. Because it had been raised at that November meeting that there may have been a particular problem moving forward. We told you that we would check with a code enforcement officer and, see how things develop. If everything was okay, I would notify you again. You could go ahead and, get your final survey map, but we cautioned you not to engage a surveyor until, we were certain of that. I spoke with the code enforcement officer a few days after our meeting, as I had promised. He told me that he was issuing a violation letter. And he sent the letter to planning board. And I assumed he had sent the copy to you.
I had my copy.
And so at that point, I called you, left a message on your phone that things were suspended. This was turned over, it was now in the code enforcement officer's hands to resolve the issues that he had brought forth. And the planning board would wait until the code enforcement officer resolved with you folks and came up with whatever plan, a solution. And then the CEO would notify us, planning board, at that time. We would notify you and say, we will proceed with your application. So I did call you as I had said I would. I left the message. And I left the message that, we meet every Monday, fourth Monday of every month, and we do have Zoom available if you wanted to either come or join us on Zoom. And neither of those happened. So we're still sitting here under the order from this code enforcement officer that the subdivision not be permitted to go forward until things are worked out with him. So that's where we as a planning board stand.
All right.
So
Now, at that meeting, Mr. Enberg had questioned whether the planning board had the authority to stop the process because of a violation. I don't believe you have the authority to do that. And if you do, I would like you to show it to me in code. Now, as for your message that you left, I did not get it.
You didn't get a message.
I moved, I transferred my phone service, and instead of transferring my number, Spectrum gave me a new number. I contacted them and said, hey, where's my number? And they said, well, it was a mistake on their part. What they did is I called and I said, hey, I want my phone number, not somebody else's number,
Anyway, that's.
I check my phone daily. I moved my phone servers, they installed a new phone. I called the next day, asked them to lock, I want my phone number, so they locked it. They locked it for 2 weeks, they could not get it unlocked.
But anyway, we lost,
I lost,
starting it up, buddy.
I
We
lost
a
the
lot of
messages. We had all the messages, we had a doctor's call. We lost, she missed appointments for doctors and CT scan because we did not get the message. I talked to approximately 15 people at Spectrum to get that result. So I got no message. I just want you to understand how.
we've all been in those kinds of situations with technology, and unfortunately we
I
become.
never got it, so I don't know how to respond to you. I know that there's a thing in 62 days, and I didn't get a letter of approval for the preliminary, so I could go to the lawyer to start the process before I even get the survey. I have to go to the bank to find out if they'll even let me divide the property, because there is a mortgage on the whole thing. So I really do not think the planning board has the authority to stop it because of code violation.
They're two separate
It's
entities.
two separate entities. And I don't, if you guys share an office, and I understand that. But from what I've seen and I read, you don't have the authority to hold it up for a violation. Those are two separate buildings or departments. You might share an office, but the departments are separate. And, you know, if we want to go to 108, please. Chapter 108. That was
Chapter
brought up
on
in the
subdivision.
meeting. Huh?
It's chapter
Chapter
on
on subdivision was brought up. Everything I look at, it says authorizes the planning board of the town of Canada. I saw it many times throughout here. Mr. Smith brought up something under chapter or 108, 13. If we read this and we read the context of the paragraph B, he has no authority under that. That does not constitute anything that goes on with this side of the government. The planning board does not have the authority to stop the subdivision thing because of a violation. If it does, could you please show me where and how?
Chapter 16 of our town code
Just-
defines a code enforcement officer and his duties and responsibilities. And his responsibility is to enforce all of the town laws. So when he makes a statement and gives a direction to the planning board, we as a planning board accept that.
He has no.
Let me-
You as a planning board.
You're arguing with the wrong person. People,
You're wrong. I'm arguing the right person.
Because it says, it states right here, 108-12, appeals.
We don't need to look at 78 thing.
I'm just gonna read, actions by the planning board on subdivision applications are reviewable under Article 78 proceedings. This is. Decisions of the planning board on subdivision applications are not reviewable by any other town body. That's another town body. So I have no problem,
I have a
Really?
I have a comment.
oh, look, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna finish, but
Okay, I think you've used your time as a third from the floor. I think Ted has stated our position as a planning board. And I don't think we're here to argue the point. Am I on or off?
Yeah, it's very hard to hear you on the Zoom stuff.
we'll check these.
Yeah, okay, I'm using Kate.
I'm gonna call you back later.
So you don't agree with what? We're not here to argue. I think if you have a dispute with our rulings, or, you know, as Ted has stated,
You approve.
CEOs.
that you can go to the court and settle it that way.
But you overstepped your authority. You got over the line.
I understand what you're saying. I hear you completely. And I can accept that's your point of view. We have a point of view too. We're not gonna change our point of view at this point. We haven't been told to by the code
Are
enforcement
you speaking
officer.
for everybody right now?
I'm speaking for myself
Okay.
as a member of the
Well,
planning.
you're suing me, so I want
So if you have a dispute with what we've ruled as a planning board, then you should go to court and do a section in Article 78.
what did you rule? You ruled that I had preliminary approval. I did not get a letter stating that.
Well, in
We
our,
don't send letters for preliminary, we send letters after final approval or denial.
Are you sure? Is that what the rules are?
So anyway, we do.
I don't care what you do. If that's not what the rules are, it's not what you do. Am I correct? You are an officer in the court. Is that true?
No, he's here as a planning.
Yeah, I'm here as a planning board member and, you know, we had a discussion, you weren't here the following month. Where it sounded like the code enforcement officer at that time had a valid argument for stopping this application. He presented a pretty good case to us. What we have now, though, if I'm not mistaken, though, this code enforcement officer has left and we have a current one online,
Right,
correct? Could we see where he stands on this?
exactly. So Joe Miller, the CEO. Hello, Joe. Joe, I don't know if you can hear us. We'd like to hear from you.
Oh, he said something in the comment.
Let me see what it says in the chat.
So basically.
He says he doesn't have a mic.
We didn't have a microphone. So we're not gonna hear from him.
Separate issue.
The zoning and we don't have, yeah, we're working on it. Actually, more have gone out since we were here last time. Every time, because round play, you good luck getting anything. So yes, we are taking care of that. And this also, but they're two separate things. I mean, if I was to sell my house today, would he have jurisdiction on saying that I couldn't sell it because there's,
I'm not a lawyer, I have no.
No, I'm just
answer to that
saying.
Question.
He has no authority over the sale of the house.
So,
That's a.
Yeah.
so why does he have authority over me subdividing?
This is it's his authority.
We're going
over the
around
planning
and
board.
around, and I
Right.
don't think we need to go around and around. I would ask if there are any of the board members who'd like to make any comments, to please do so. If at that point, we'll see where we go.
I have a comment. It sounded like, if I'm not mistaken, where we were at before was you had started removing vehicles, were making good progress and got hung up by the weather. And about that time, you brought in the application and we had that question about the violation. Went to the code enforcement officer, got his, like I say, you weren't here. It was a good case that he could stop that application based on that violation. But I think that it could be resolved very easily by speaking with our new code enforcement officer. Yeah, and I think that we could certainly go ahead and move forward with his okay, gotta get his okay. But I really feel that stopping this application isn't gonna serve the planning board well at all. I think it's in the planning board's best interest to hear this application and get through with it. For one, it gets rid of a flag lot that we don't like. And it gives a neighbor, you know, we had heard from Birch that the neighbors were upset with the vehicles and up there, and this is giving a neighbor an opportunity to get a piece of their property and be in control of it and fix it the way he likes, and we're hurting him. When you want to help neighbors, we're hurting them. So I think we could resolve this, and I think your first stop is our new code enforcement officer, because I think he'll be really open to hearing from you and wanting to resolve this. No, the process is open as far as I know. Right? It just stopped because the code
We
enforcement
don't
decided
have
to
to
stop it.
restart. We
Yeah.
just-
It's still open. We just need the code enforcement officer to say, okay, let's go.
I disagree with the whole premise. I understand exactly what you're saying, Steve.
I understand it, I think, yes.
I wish I could quote for you and I can't because I don't have that good a retention. But the code enforcement officer did make a very good argument that he was authorized to stop this application until you can play. Well, he did, and you weren't here to hear it, and I can't quote it. Can you guys quote the section?
Wasn't that 13B?
I don't recall what he said. I'm not asking what you found. I'm asking what the code enforcement officer presented.
Would you like what the state said? The code officer's authority?
No, no. What I'm saying is the code enforcement officer, the month after you were here, had a really good argument why he could stop it. He could back it up with codes and laws, not ones that neither of us are gonna know off the top of our head. And we should give him the benefit of the doubt because he's the code enforcement officer.
Understand that he doesn't have authority over this board.
It
Lee,
sounds
you can
as
say
though
that
he
100 more
does.
times, it's not gonna change. You can say it 100 more times, it's not gonna change.
What's not gonna change?
He's saying we have no authority. He has no authority. We've heard you. It's up to him to answer this question. I fully agree with what Steve everybody just said. Resolution between yourself and the code enforcement officer.
Maybe it was the
If the
first.
code enforcement officer sends us a letter saying he's happy and he's removing that non-recommendation, we can move forward. We can pick up right where we left off and move forward.
See, that's the problem with these little places like.
Honey, I'm right, right there, stop.
You're making rulings and you don't know your own damn rules.
Anyone else on the board have anything to say?
I think it's enough has been said.
Enough's been said.
Must have been said.
I thank you, Stephen, for your insight.
Certainly,
Thank you very much.
please follow through with it, because really, we
Yes.
want to see this taken
We
care
just
of.
be speaking with him tomorrow because he went on my property without my consent or a warrant. And that's in the laws too, if you would actually read them.
This is the history of the violation.
There are some other comments from Joe. I don't know if someone can read them.
Let's see. I agree with Steve. I was involved with the research of his decision. It was documented well by Steve.
So. It's back to them, work out an agreement, and we get the okay from CEO,
Sorry,
we'll pick up and continue.
Just everyone gets stuff for it, all right.
Did we send her? all
Take me a
those
minute.
things?
We don't need to.
You don't need to.
Mr. Sullivan just said he received that package from.
Oh, the
CEO.
package with the violation. that we're
Yeah.
talking about.
Did you get
Well,
that?
once you say anything, there will. My questions. You're gonna say
She asked us a question.
Did you get the package? of Violations? Some package of violations.
Oh,
When you speak with Mr. Miller,
I will be speaking to Mr. Miller tomorrow. No, that's. Not a concern of your planning board.
Funny, they're trying to.
I understand what they're saying, but they don't know what their own rules are. Read chapter 108 bylaws of the job.
Good night.
hope you make it home in the snow.
Oh, yeah, we will. Thank you.
All right, that was the privilege of the floor. I think we-
Didn't the code enforcement officer actually
Yeah.
give
Oh, yeah.
us a code section
Chapter 108,
that stated specifically that
yeah, it was a.
if there's any violation that the
He,
subdivision cannot go on?
he can stop the code enforcement officer stops the process.
I was just asking for that.
I'll
section.
read you
Oh,
this,
that's what-
okay, it's this, chapter 108, section 2, part A. Among other things, it is a policy of the planning board to consider land and subdivision plans as part of a plan for the orderly, efficiently and economic development of the town. This means, among other things, that the planning board shall assure that the land to be subdivided shall be of such character that can be used safely for building purposes without damage to the environment or to health or without peril from fire, flood, or other menace. And he had highlighted the other menace because of the vehicles up there.
Okay.
Okay, and shall assure proper provisions should be made. He also quoted the zoning, chapter 120, section 71. These are prohibited uses of property within our town. A, automobile graveyard. He's classifying that as an automobile graveyard. B, junkyard. So he's classifying that property as some of those, and those were his bases for this violation.
But wasn't there something?
I
that
thought he actually
empowered him to
quoted-
Make that decision?
Quoted one of the codes that says that we can stop this thing if there's violations in effect.
I thought so
Yeah.
too, but I can't find it.
Yeah, that's the one I was looking for, because without that, I think
It's-
Mr. Sullivan
No,
is a better argument.
There is a provision in our code that if the code enforcement officer can kind of stop the process, or I believe if 3 or more people sign on, they can act to do something. I forgot what it was.
I'm not familiar with it.
Well, is it worth reviewing the code before our next meeting and potentially speaking with the attorney for this board? To get clarification if we're,
I think we go with what the code enforcement on. I mean, they did a good job.
What was the date of the letter?
December
Well, the
1st.
letter was December 13th, saying that it's my recommendation, no subdivision be permitted to go forward.
Who's that addressed to?
Planning board. When he sent
CC'd
copy
it
of
all?
this,
They would have got a copy.
or even Steve Smith and Mr. Sullivan just said he got a copy of it.
Oh.
That letter, right? It doesn't sound like maybe you got a copy of the.
It would have behooved them to Making an attempt to speak to him prior to today, it's had almost 2 months. You know, and it's like. In that you get something, a formal document from somebody telling you to do this or that or the other thing, what? Respond to that, don't go, it's kind of, oh, shoot, now, because code enforcement is tell, basically stop it, so you go through him and try and resolve it. You're gonna argue it all night long and still be here, so.
Well, I mean, I understand this
Yeah.
frustration.
You made a good point, Steve, you really did, but unfortunately. Still think like, that's what we have to go back, we have to like, get some, communication from. Joe.
I'm not sure we should move ahead to the planning board should contact the attorney. I think it's.
Right, it's in his ballpark.
It's we're willing to work, like, you know, I think we're all ready to pick it up and, you know, go ahead and do the final approvals, as long as that is. We're not taking on that roadblock is taken on. At least that's my. So he just included in this packet, several violation notices over. Going back to 2020.
But Ted, you recall, the discussion of a section that empowers him to
Yes.
stop an application, right?
I do remember that
So-
exactly.
So now our meetings are on Zoom now, so if I go back to the last, to that meeting, will I be able to hear what that was?
You should be able to hear it
So it'd be meeting
at the December meeting.
Are we
Steve
recording these
Smith.
if nobody's
Oh, yeah.
watching?
Yes, all being recorded regardless, and they're being put on the website. So you can,
I am about 1,000 times a day, I think.
yeah, if somebody can find that, yeah.
Because I know it was in the packet that you showed us from code enforcement. He has it. I could see the sheet of paper.
Do you want me to look for it right now?
No,
Well.
you want approval of the minutes?
People hear it right now unless somebody has a good.
Because
idea.
that,
I mean, if it was on.
we all agreed that he has the right to do that. I remember reading it.
And we got at least 3 people remembering this, there was something specific, right?
Yeah, I'd just
Yeah.
like to be able to know it because we weren't able to answer Mr. Sullivan's question.
Right.
And, that was
I
kind of
think
a
if
key
it-
point we didn't know.
I think if it had been on the agenda, we may have been more prepared and been able to have time to review it, but unfortunately.
I-
It doesn't sound like he communicated with Ted in time to be on. the
Last time I
agenda,
talked to
but,
him, he hung up the phone on me, so. You know,
So unfortunately,
Never said he wanted to be on the agenda, so.
we certainly would have liked to have been able to provide him with the information he was
Yes.
looking for, but.
Yep.
Kind of caught us off guard.
I agree.
Came in with grief and seed emotions, and we weren't gonna change his mind at all, no matter what you said. Good points were raised. And, by all which spoke.
So Joe, we're, you know, relying on you. And, you know, if you work out an equitable or an acceptable plan. Whatever, however you want to handle this with the Sullivans,
He says he's definitely willing to talk and figure this out.
figure it out, and if they, you know, you come up with a good path forward. Notify the planning board and we can get the Sullivans on the agenda for next month and. Finish up the subdivision approval, as long as you can come up with an agreement, Joe. All right,
I have one last.
Yeah.
But I didn't think.
He said yes, he'll work on that, by the way.
Had authorization to go on property.
I think they do, I'm not sure there are certain, certain conditions where they can, but no.
They
can't-
can make,
just
they can walk up to
by.
the front door, they can go up the driveway, they can't mill around the property. But that's considered basic ingress egress for any official, they can
Yeah.
walk right up to your front door.
I thought if the violation was visible, they could enter a property.
Well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know that they can just help themselves and wander around on the property, that one I'm not sure of, the one I
think
do
if the
know.
Violation is visible, they. can
It is,
enter a
it is,
property.
and I can imagine, Joe going up there and just going to the door to talk to him or something, that's perfectly legal, a police officer, a firefighter, a code enforcement, anybody. can
In the past, the last visit Steve Smith had to call, he called the sheriff and the state trooper showed up also.
I remember, and I think that was a very extreme reaction because I know exactly what Mr. Sullivan said to him. And it wasn't that inflammatory. It's what I would call hill speak around here, because he had told him if any, that the town of Canadice could come in and remove all the vehicles and put it on his taxes and foreclose on his property and all these threats. And Mr. Sullivan's response, well, if anybody's gonna do that, they're gonna get shot. And he didn't mean it, you know, but this is hill speak saying, don't push me. It's definitely, you know, an inflammatory thing to say, and you take it verbatim, it's a problem, but I worked with a man 30 years ago at J&S Conveyors here in town. I've known him a lot of years, and he's not gonna shoot anybody. And I think Steve knew that too. I think he was using that statement to an extreme that was not necessary.
I
My
think
personal
in
opinion.
today's
that's all.
environment, I don't fault it.
I disagree with that.
I
You just can't go there.
I know, I'm just saying, it's hill speak, and I get it in court every week, so just saying.
10 years ago, yeah, maybe, not so.
So Holly, I think we need some kind of a statement in here around. You have the information, right? Mr. and Mrs. Lee Sullivan,
Right.
privilege of the floor. Bottom line is that, you know, we listened to Mr. Sullivan, heard his complaints. Referred him to the code enforcement officer to resolve the issue.
Mm-hmm.
We'll wait to get resolution.
Right.
I don't think we need to add verbiage. I mean, it's all on Zoom.
What did we prevent him from doing? He
He
said
wants
he had to talk to the bank, he had to talk to the lawyer, and he had to talk to a surveyor. How does that have anything to do with us?
Well, we cautioned you not to incur the cost of a surveyor
Right,
until, you know,
but again, I don't know why he was mad at us for anything, because do your own thing.
well, it's holding up the sale.
Yeah, we stopped his
If we-
application.
So
Yeah,
that's,
He's wanting
So-
final approval for
Yeah,
his
I think we
subdivision.
should.
it's a
move on.
financial, and again, we hurt ourselves, you know, he could sell the property, get some money to help him clean it up. He is cleaning it up, it costs some money. You know, it's one of these things that we're just cutting off our nose to spite our face by not helping anyone.
let's move on past that privilege of the floor, get something like that in the minutes for us, Holly, that would be great. Any last comments? Okay, let's go back to the agenda then. And we'll do approval of the minutes from the February meeting, you can have correction at all.
I just had a question about B, privilege of the floor. I'm not sure what we're reminded to use.
You, reminder to use the, okay, I'm thinking,
A microphone in front of you.
Oh,
oh, that's right. That's right.
No.
Thanks, Mick. Thanks, Caitlin.
Anything else? Yes,
Under E, old business. Second sentence of the first paragraph, 1. The re-subdivision was presented to Ontario County, but still has not been approved. Could you refresh my memory? What's the re-subdivision?
They're
they're
putting, go ahead. Oh, they're putting together two, they have a narrow strip of property that they're adding to the other property. So it's just
on County,
combining two.
on County Road
Okay.
37, their primary property does not have 250 feet of road frontage. Since that's what they want to use as the entrance to their new home, we would not be able to approve it. They own the next little chunk of property that adjoins that on County Road 37.
Okay.
So you're gonna join those two parcels to the single lot, then they have plenty of road frontage. And that's what.
Okay, so you did
We
mention,
did the re-subdivision way back, the very first time we met with them.
okay,
it's just that one-page form, Steve, that is actually, it's called re-subdivision, but it's when you're joining two parcels.
And
okay, well, I just wonder if this is just a bit misleading, this sentence, because you did state that we presented this to Ontario County And Linda had no problems with it.
No,
No,
that's a separate issue. This
Oh,
is,
it is.
this is a presented Ontario County Assessor.
Oh,
It's just a one-page form that's like a.
okay, well,
formality.
maybe could we,
Ontario County hasn't approved it and put it in the
And
record.
today, even, they still haven't.
Okay.
I've been bugging our assessor, she's been bugging
I
the
think-
person over there.
I believe it
I
goes
was
through
a-
the county clerk's office. for-
okay, because,
Yeah, when he filed,
Yeah,
filed the map,
Okay,
right.
I don't, are you
Well-
guys aware that the county clerk died last week?
yeah,
No,
The Ontario County Clerk
Yeah.
died unexpectedly last week. So that was,
well,
So-
I had been dealing with our assessor because our local assessor has to initiate the paperwork. We had done the re-subdivision approval months ago. We submitted it to Lisa, then our assessor, and it must have gotten lost somewhere, so I bugged them a couple of times within the last 6 weeks. They bugged whoever in the county, and we still don't have that.
okay, so I just, back to this, because I'm assuming it was presented to the Ontario County Planning Board, okay? I just wonder, could we put, perhaps like you said, was presented to Ontario County, the Ontario County Assessor? We can identify what
I
area,
think it goes through the Ontario County Clerk.
I think
or
it just,
clerk or whoever?
it just says Ontario County. I don't think we need to specify it.
Okay, okay, it's just a question. And then I had one other question,
Yes,
because I'm confused on this. Because I see tonight we have old business subdivision for Costanza. Okay.
Yep.
And then on the second page of the minutes, near the top there, the subdivision for Costanza.
yes.
And we got Mr. Engard motion, Mr. Craig second, that was unanimously carried to grant final approval. What are we doing tonight?
Final approval wasn't conditioned upon getting the new map. There were some changes to the map. It says here, survey map needs to have existing driveway, location of the wellness. Okay, so
So-
that should be final approval, final conditional approval.
That's what I'm saying, okay, or preliminary or something,
No, it's
conditional,
not preliminary,
conditional,
final
okay.
conditional approval.
because it's not final, is all I'm questioning.
So you get that, Holly, to be, under the old business, stands a subdivision,
Right,
under, the motion after number 3. that Mr.
Right.
Okay, carried grant final conditional approval
final conditional.
with necessary corrections. So, I did speak with, Mr. Consent, with the surveyor.
All right, well, I'll put to grant final conditional approval. And I do have with the necessary corrections discussed. At the,
At the end of the
Oh,
sentence.
yeah, you do.
right,
Just take out the word final and put conditional, I think. Would that be okay?
No, because we
Mhm.
voted on the final approval. We've gone through, and the next step was we're voting on approval, so it has to be a final approval with conditions. We're not going to, all we're doing is waiting for him to get the map updated and bring it back to us, and then we're happy with it. Sign it, and he's done. We don't have to take any additional actions.
how about if I,
How
move the with necessary corrections discussed, if I put that unanimously carried to grant final approval with necessary corrections discussed to the subdivision application? Does that make it a little clearer? Or,
I do think we need the word conditional, because I think that's
Yes.
what's in the code.
okay,
Is.
all
that
right,
We can grant we
We
can grant final approval with conditions.
Right,
That's what's
okay.
worded in the code.
gotcha.
So yeah, Holly, I like moving that last, but maybe just working grant final
Condition.
approval conditional on
Right.
necessary corrections.
Okay, all right, got it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
That's all I had.
Anything else? I had one, under E, old business. After number one site plan, the next paragraph, you have Mr. Birch motion. That should be Mr. Craig motion.
I go by both.
I have not done that in a
I go
long
by
time, Birch.
That's fine. It's the story of my life.
Okay, anything else? Okay, motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I so.
Aye.
I so.
Okay, Dwight, second by Birch, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, who motioned?
Mr. Youthy,
Youthy, okay.
all right?
Yep,
Okay, we'll go on with reports then. Town board meeting, town board met on the 13th of this month. Pretty routine things, highway department, they've been really busy. They had, around 35 plowing and salting events. They spent some time down, clearing out some downed trees, the ash trees around town. Most of them are dead and they've fallen into the road, so our highway department's cleaning up those. They actually began stocking in materials for some of the summer road projects and stockpiling those. They've got a 2013 Mack truck, big ones, up for auction, nobody wants to buy it. And let's see. And they're working on a contract for parking lot reconstruction and refreshing. Honey Lake watershed, not much. Water district, things are going fine. They renewed the contracts with Williamson Law for their software. Public hearing at the March meeting for a review of septic system variance, 6600 6600 South Old Ballville. They reappointed Linda Morehouse to Canadice Board of Review. They reappointed Lisa Bennett as the Canadice Assessor. Fully understand she retired, but they're reappointing her.
Because
I think it's for bookkeeping,
Yeah,
because she's retired. I don't understand, but anyway,
I think
she's,
it's for bookkeeping, but also she has to be there because the replacement
Holly's not certified.
certified
I
yet.
think that's it.
But anyway, so, Lisa's continuing as the assessor. They reviewed our code update draft for the short term. They liked what they saw. And this whole was going to forward that on for attorney to look at. That was it. Questions? County Planning Board, Steve Grohl.
I attended the February 8th County Planning Board. We were one shy of having a quorum that evening. We've got several absences on the board, trying to fill several towns here. But in light of that, final action wasn't taken on anything, but even if we had, really nothing to report here. Nothing of any adjoining towns that might be of interest. Few different building projects going on throughout the county.
Steve, what was the date of the meeting?
February 8th.
Thank you.
So that's
All right, thank you.
vacancies, not absences, vacancies.
Questions? All right, thank you. Zoning Board,
Complete silence.
pardon?
Complete silence.
Silence. I did get a notification that there had been an application for the owner of the property down on Pine Haven Lane. The old restaurant there. Someone wanted to buy that piece of property. That piece of property has an easement across that property down to the lake. They wanted to buy the easement. And that meant that the remaining portion, if they were to split that away, would not be 50 feet. 50 feet frontage, lake frontage required. So the zoning board denied that. Don't usually deny things, but they did. And they sent me a notice also that they did approve area variance of 5828 Sweet Pea Lane. Yes,
Can I go back to county planning a second?
certainly.
I just forgot to mention that every year we appoint and vote on different the chair and the vice chair. And Len Wildman, who's been our chair past few years, represents Richmond. He thought it was time to bow out. And then the representative from the city of Geneva, Paul Passavant. He's been the co-chair for about 2 years now, so he came on board. And the vice chair, Paul used to be the vice chair. The vice chair now is by Steve, taken over by Steve High, and he represents the town of Geneva. So we had a little turnover there.
New chairperson and vice chair.
Yes. Got to mention that.
Thank you. So Wildman's not on the planning board?
Well, no, he stayed on the, he really, well, he loves the county planning also, and, but he just thought that he's been on for several years and he thought that perhaps, you know, a
Okay,
little new blood. But he stayed on, he stayed on the representative to the county soil and water. What's that? No.
I say to Ted, don't get any
Yeah,
idea.
right,
all
right.
right, thank you.
Yeah,
So that was the zoning.
Yeah.
That's all I had heard from
Yeah.
the zoning board. They did record it to the last meeting on Zoom, but there was no sound. So. And they didn't have any minutes posted on the website. And code enforcement, we had included Joe's report for the monthly permits, short-term rentals, violations, all of that. Do you have any questions on that? Dr. Joe, do you have anything to add for us? Oh, Joe?
No.
No? Okay,
not like-
thank you. All right, with that, I did put on here the old business, which was the hopefully the return of Mr. Costanzo with his map. He didn't make it. So they're gonna call me and ask me, why do you need all this information? I said, as long as the current action doesn't involve the existing property, we will put those things up. You shouldn't want to have less information on a survey map. It's all there on that previous map. He said, oh, yeah, I saw it was there. I just chose another place. So the planning board's requesting it to be shown on the map. And I said, okay, I'll try to get it out. But obviously he didn't get it. So, that was just to be for them to come back, show us if they made the improvements to the survey map. And then we'll sign it and close that.
Holly, we're getting a lot of background noise from you.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, and we don't have any new business. Is there anything else for a privilege of the floor?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, is there a second? Second. Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Holly and Joe.
Thank you, Holly.
Yeah, afraid so. If I do, it'll be about the first time I've gone out.